What Israelis feared for 29 weeks finally played out this week. It is the start of a chain that could possibly divide Israel for good. The Knesset has cleared out the first part of the judicial bill. This sparked violence and flared frustrations. We tell you the full story.
Benjamin Netanyahu began his best-selling autobiography with the story of a daring special forces raid he took part in. It was to free Israeli passengers from a hijacked airliner in 1972, an event that helped shape his hawkish image during more than 3 decades in politics. Now it is one of the ironies surrounding Israel's longest-serving prime minister. Within weeks of beginning his record 6th term in office, one of his signature policies, an overhaul of the judiciary, caused such tensions in the army that his defense chief warned national security was at risk. "29 weeks of protest did not stop Netanyahu. Chants on the streets made no dent to his coalition agenda. This week, the Israeli government passed the first part of its judicial reform, a controversial bill that has effectively divided the Israeli society, a reform that has sparked the biggest democratic crisis in Israeli history since 1948. At the center of the storm is Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The leader is accused of steering his country down a calamitous path that threatens democratic values and ideals of unity on which it was built. Temperatures in the Israeli parliament ran high this Monday. The government had approved the first ratification of the overhaul, one that strips the judiciary of its power. The bill passed by the ultra-nationalists in power prevents Israel's High Court of Justice from using the reasonableness standard to strike down government decisions. A grim moment for Israel, the country that has for long sought to hold itself as the democratic ideal in West Asia. This seems like a beginning of a crisis that might become a pivotal point in Israeli history.
The pass for me, it's just the first step of so much that's happening. It makes me really, really sad about what's happening in this country. I made Aliyah 7 years ago, and it's the first time I actually felt so sad to see what's happening. You see, the atmosphere on the streets is just, everyone's so angry.
There is anger on the streets, frustrations playing out in open. Thousands have blocked highways, doctors are threatening damaging strikes. The reservists have denied duty. Wherever you see, there is chaos, there is violence, there are clashes. The government is seemingly ignorant of the crisis. Netanyahu, in his remarks after the bill was passed, said that is what Israel needed and that it was only democratic to do so.
Today, we carried out a necessary democratic step. The step was aimed at restoring a degree of balance between the authorities, which was the case 50 years ago, when judges did not have the ability to strike down government decisions they deemed not to be reasonable. We passed the amendment on reasonability so that the elected government can carry out policies in line with the decisions of the majority of the citizens of the country.
From Israeli opposition leaders to Israeli citizens, even its overseas allies, the move has hardly been welcomed by anyone.
It was unfortunate that the vote today took place with the slimmest possible majority, We understand talks are ongoing and likely to continue over the coming weeks and months to forge a broader compromise, even with the Knesset in recess, and we will continue to support the efforts of President Herzog and other Israeli leaders as they seek to build a broader consensus through political dialogue.
The political crisis can also impact Israel economically. After the vote was cleared, Morgan Stanley lowered Israel's sovereign credit to a dislike stance. Moody's Investor Service also cautioned that the country's economy faces negative consequences. It warned of significant risk after the latest vote, but the Israeli leader disagrees. Simcha Rotman heads the Knesset Law and Justice Committee. He says the overhaul has no impact on the Israeli economy.
Economy is stronger than riots. Economy is stronger than legislation. The economy in Israel is good, having all the strength of the Israeli brain, of the Israeli system, of the Israeli workforce, of the Israeli long-term investments.
The Israeli Supreme Court says it will not block the legislation. It says the debate will be held in September as planned. The government meanwhile says it is open to negotiations with the opposition, but those standing against it rule out his overtures. Former Prime Minister and opposition leader Yair Lapid called it an empty show, claiming Netanyahu has no authority. While the protest continues, the government will be seeking a vote on controlling judicial appointments once Knesset is out of recess. They want Parliament to have the ability to override decisions by the Supreme Court to strike down legislation. Netanyahu in the past has said that he has no intention to push with the latter. But critics are suspicious. They fear Netanyahu, who in an attempt to come to power brought together a far-right coalition, might not be calling the shots. Observers say Netanyahu's greed for power can possibly push Israel to a civil war.